ready to dive into something kind of technical but super cool.
I actually made this animation in CapCut. For those of you who have been with me for a while, you know that I made lots of animations in Photoshop. I made a few animations in Adobe Premiere Pro as well. So now I'm trying it out in CapCut.
Today we're tackling keyframes. Okay, imagine this. You've got your video element, right? Could be text, a picture, whatever. Keyframes are like giving that element instructions, like at this moment, be this big, now move over here, that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
It's starting to.
And it's actually a perfect way to illustrate what animation is all about, creating that illusion of movement.
And how do we do that? By breaking down that movement into individual steps. And keyframes let you control each of those steps. Think of it like those old school flip books, where each page has a slightly different drawing.
Oh, I used to love those.
Me too. And when you flip through them quickly, it creates that smooth motion. Keyframes are essentially the digital version of those individual drawings. They allow for so much more control and precision in the digital world.
So true. Speaking of control, the CapCut webpage goes hard on how keyframes give creators the power to make mind-blowingly complex animations, not just basic stuff.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. What kind of complex stuff are we talking about? What can you do with these CapCut keyframes?
Get this, you can use them to sync object movements to music.
Whoa, hold on. So you're telling me I can make something move to the beat?
Precisely. And that's just one example. It's incredibly powerful for grabbing a viewer's attention, that visual rhythm.
Our brains just love patterns,
Yeah.
right? And when you add visuals that sync up with music, that's got to be super satisfying to watch. Filmmakers use it all the time.
All the time. And now CapCut is putting that power into everyone's hands. But, it's more than just syncing with music. The really wild part is that keyframes give you this fine-grained control over time itself. Think about it.
Time control. That sounds intense. Go on.
You're not just saying move from A to B. You're dictating every single moment the position, how big or small it is, even if it's see-through or not, all along the way.
It's like being a choreographer, but for objects on a screen.
Yes, and that's why keyframing is so powerful for storytelling, for adding emphasis subtly, for creating those really sleek special effects you see.
So when CapCut says they empower mind-blowing animations, they're not kidding around, huh?
Not even a little. This isn't just about making a box slide across the screen. They're hinting at a whole other level of stuff. Like, they use this phrase, stunning content.
Stunning content. That's quite the claim.
Right. And they also talk about perfect synchrony, which gets you thinking, what are the limits here? We see basic zooms and pans in the tutorial, but what about animating text, creating special effects?
Oh, like explosions and stuff.
Exactly. It makes you wonder what's possible. And it's not just like wild speculation, even the way the CapCut webpage talks about how millions of people are using it for social media, TikTok, YouTube, everything.
Yeah, it's huge on those platforms.
Exactly. So it's not just for those fancy animation studios anymore. It's like keyframing for everyone.
And CapCut seems to get that. Like, they really want to make these tools easy to use. You know what I mean?
Oh, totally. And the YouTube tutorial really shows that. LC editing is just dragging and dropping keyframes right there on the timeline.
It's so intuitive. You don't have to be a coder or anything to figure it out.
Right. Like, CapCut wants animation to be, like, playful, not the scary technical thing. And I think that's super smart because it gets people experimenting, right?
Totally. And remember how the web page mentioned those pre-made templates and effects?
Oh, yeah, those are cool.
It's all about lowering that barrier to entry so people can just dive in and start creating.
Which I love. Oh, and speaking of diving in, remember that detail about team collaboration on projects?
Oh, yeah. That was interesting. What was it about again?
So CapCut lets you work on projects with others. And it's interesting, right? It's like they see keyframes being used for more than just solo projects.
You're right. Like, maybe even for more complex projects with a whole team. That's really interesting.
Right. And it makes sense when you think about how versatile keyframing can be. Like, yeah, you can make the fun GIF on your phone, but these same tools could be used in a professional setting, especially with everyone working remotely these days.
Yeah, it reminds me of how video editing itself has evolved. Remember when you needed those big, expensive studios and equipment? Now you can practically edit a whole movie on your phone.
Crazy, right?
And it feels like keyframing is on a similar path. It's becoming more powerful, more sophisticated, but also more accessible to a wider range of people. And that takes us back to that phrase they used, stunning content. What do you think they mean by that? What kind of advanced stuff are they hinting at?
Ooh, good question. Well, I feel like one area where keyframes really shine is with those super smooth transitions, The kind you see in movies and stuff.
Oh, yeah, like when a scene goes from day to night seamlessly, or
Yeah.
when one object kind of morphs into another.
Yes. Those usually rely heavily on keyframes to get the timing and the flow just right. And I think the beauty of it is once you understand how to control change over time, which is really what keyframing is, right?
Right.
You can apply that to all sorts of creative effects. Like you could make text fly across the screen, add motion blur to something to make it look super fast. You could even use keyframes with audio. Did you know that?
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, to create these immersive soundscapes. It's like having a whole toolkit for manipulating time and space, but within your video. And it makes me wonder, remember how they mentioned CapCut's AI-powered tools?
Yeah. I wonder how those play into all of this.
Right, like imagine being able to just tell CapCut what you want. Like, make this title explode onto the screen, and the AI just does it using keyframes. Crazy, right?
That would be amazing. The future of animation is wild.
I know. But even without the AI stuff, the creative possibilities are pretty much endless, right? Like they emphasize perfect synchrony, which to me says they put a lot of work into making their keyframing super precise.
Which is key when you're talking about animation. If the timing is even a little bit off, it just looks wrong.
100%. And that's what's so cool about it. When animation is done well, it feels effortless, right? Like magic.
Totally. But behind that magic is a ton of work. Carefully planning each little movement, using those keyframes to create that illusion.
So true. And I think that's why it's easy to get caught up in the technical stuff, but you can't forget the storytelling aspect.
Oh, absolutely. At the end of the day, the best animations are the ones that make you feel something, connect with you on a human level. It's not just about making things move around on the screen.
That's such a good point. Think about your favorite animated movies. They're so memorable because of the stories they tell, right? And the emotions they evoke.
Exactly. And sure, the technical skill is important, but it's how you use those skills to connect with the audience.
Yeah.
That's the real magic.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And you know what's so great? You don't need to be like a professional animator to have fun with this stuff. Both the YouTube video and that CapCut webpage, they make it clear this is for everyone.
Oh yeah, if you can drag and drop, you can totally figure out keyframes in CapCut.
Exactly. And the best part is, even if you get stuck, there's this whole community out there,
Tons of people sharing tips and tutorials online. It's amazing.
I know. It's like this whole world of animators all connected through this one app. It's wild when you think about it. Someone could be sitting on their couch making the next viral animation right on their phone.
That's what's so cool about this. This isn't just about some software. It's about creativity becoming accessible to everyone.
Right. Like, remember how intimidating video editing used to be? Now everyone's making movies on their phones. It feels like keyframing and animation are going down that same path, from something only pros did to something anyone can try.
And it's important to remember, even with these easy-to-use tools, it still takes practice, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like those mind-blowing animations they kept talking about. Those don't just happen overnight.
Definitely not. There's an art to it, like anything else, like learning an instrument or a new language.
Exactly.
But that's what's so great about CapCut. They make it fun to learn, easy to experiment, so you can find your own style.
It's like they've taken away all the obstacles so you can focus on the fun part, making something cool, making an idea from your head and putting it up on the screen.
And that's what it's all about. Well, I think we did it, wouldn't you say? Our deep dive into keyframes.
Yeah, I'd say so. We went from the basics all the way to AI and the future of animation all in one go.
And we did it all through the lens of CapCut, which
So-
I gotta say is becoming a real force in the animation world. So any final thoughts for our listener? What's the key takeaway here?
Keyframes are more than just technical things. They're tools for telling stories, for bringing your ideas to life, for making your videos just a little bit more magical. And the best part is with CapCut, those tools are available to everyone.
So well said. Go forth and animate, everyone. And remember, the only limit is your imagination. Until next time.